Welcome back, and this is still TV3Newday. It's time now for the big issue. And joining me in the studio, we have Comrade Murtala Mohammed. He's the MP for Tamale Central. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, we can't complain.
You look nice. I don't think I've seen you in a suit in recent time because you're usually in your...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you're small.
I want to behave like my friends in the other side of our political divide.
Why? How do they behave?
The bourgeoisies, they are in 3 pieces. I also just want to put on something today.
Hey, I see. Okay. Well, good to have you in the studio. We're waiting for the rep from the NPP to also join us this morning. But we'll get into our conversation now. Of course, there have been a lot of economists and people who matter who have been asking for government to cut down on expenditure and also put in some measures to ensure that the economy gets a level standing. And in fact, after that meeting in Pedrasi over the weekend, a 2-day meeting, we have been told that a number of, things have been done to ensure that the economy stays afloat. One of them, announced by the Bank of Ghana yesterday, is the fact that they have increased the policy rate substantially to 17%. And so it means that the cost of loans will go up. So let me just read a bit of what it says for you. And this was announced by the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison. Now it says that the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has increased the policy rate, that's the rate at which it lends to commercial banks, by 2.5% to 17%. And this would be the first time since November 2018 that the rate has gone up so high. The decision is due to the current pressures on the economy, the uncertainty about the economic outlook and developments in Russia, Ukraine, which has pushed fuel prices up astronomically. And so the move to adjust the base lending rate of the central bank is expected to control the rise in inflation and check the rapid depreciation of the cedi. But in a related development, banking consultant Nana Otu Echampon says that with the hike in the policy rate, lenders should expect interest rates on their loans to go up. And the banking consultant said that the decision by the Bank of Ghana may hurt, but it is needed. Let's just take a look at what he said exactly. We'll come back and have a conversation on it.
The transmission rate, we've said it over and over again. When it's moving northwards, the rate is quick. When it's southwards, the rate is slow. And I think that's what's going to happen. I doubt that any of the banks will wait for as long as they did for when it was moving southwards. So we should expect an increase in rate. Increase your interest rate. It means your assets become more valuable. And the bond market, they are always scouting the whole world, looking for where interest rates are high, and then they'll buying there. So now people will be coming to buy assets of Ghana.
On his part, the head of research at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwachi, who expected the increase in policy rate, however, says if speculators persist with their demand for the dollar, it could create challenges for the economy.
For economy, you don't use only the demand, management process, like the policy rate, interest rate. You should supplement that, So I would certainly agree with you that we should also be targeting the key sources that drive our inflation. For instance, food. This is the time that I would have expected that government will be intervening. Maybe we kept some buffer stock.
All right, and that is Dr. John Kwachi. He's the Director of Research from the IEA. And of course, they had also issued a statement on measures that they thought would help government to avoid going to the IMF. Now, even though this measure is needed by the Bank of Ghana, we're told that it's going to make lending even more expensive. Comrade, what do you say?
Bella, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers and, of course, your good self and the good people of Tamale Central. It is very clear that we are in crisis, and we have been making this point for some time now. There have been experts who have spoken supporting the position the NDC took for some months, that the economy is virtually on its knees. Unfortunately, they were not prepared to listen. The economy of this country had been in its needs, or on its knees, not today. As a matter of fact, per the blistering verdict given by the World Bank rarely criticizes government and profoundly talk about economic challenges that countries face. But there was a departure, and I guess that the departure of the World Bank in making that blistering remarks of our economy was as a result of frustration. They were expecting this government to have taken the necessary steps to stem the tide. Unfortunately, they were unwilling to do so. I think that reality has now caught up of this government, and earlier they remain humble and, admit that we have challenges. Let's all see how we find solution to those challenges. I think the better. The NDC has indicated, unlike the MPP when we called for Senchi, that we won't do what they did. We are patriots, we are Democrats, we love this country more than we love ourselves, and to the extent that when the economy is going through tremendous challenges that are occasioned by the inept of this government, challenges that are occasioned by the recklessness of government in terms of their policy interventions and spending, we are willing to support this country, not just this government, to see how we can all stem the tide. You remember when we called for Senchi, the MPP didn't just oppose it. As a matter of fact, they issued a statement warning their members not to participate in Senchi. The reason why we're not surprised is that that has been the tradition of the Buza Dankwa tradition and its assigns. They have always, stood against the progress of this nation.
You cannot say that.
Why? They voted against the motion of destiny in Parliament of Ghana.
But it doesn't mean that they are against the
progress of
the nation.
They were against the independence of Ghana. There can't be anything that is more progressive than trying to liberate yourself from bondage of so-called colonial masters. They voted against that motion. As a matter of fact, the constitution we are practicing now, the Fourth Republican Constitution, in drafting it, they boycotted it. They were against the 1992 Constitution. So it was not surprising that when the NDC, even being magnanimous enough to call on them and the people of this country to see how best we could all, contribute towards salvaging the challenges that we encountered, they said they won't participate and issued a threat. You can describe it as a fatwa against their members who really wanted to participate in it. We won't do that. Let me also be very clear. The challenges we are facing today is not as a result of COVID. Let's get something very, very clear.
But COVID played a role.
Well, it did, but at any point in time, when you have such pandemic, or if you like, epidemics, they certainly will play a role. But to blame the problems we have in this country on COVID, I think is unethical. It is very clear that the indicators were very clear that the economy was struggling. Are we the only country that is hit by COVID? How come that the values of the currencies of the other countries are not depreciating at such an alarming rate as ours is depreciating? I think the last 2-3 months, over 14% of depreciation. So, this policy rate, for the short term, the economists will tell you that there will be some little impact. But to what extent? What it simply does is that it is going to make credit extremely difficult. And when people are not able to access credit, it would affect productivity. And when productivity is affected, growth will be affected. And when growth is affected, job creation will be affected. So we'll come to the same point. The panacea to the challenges we are facing today is not just about what the policy measures that this government wants to, except that they want to just have a knee-jerk response. And I suspect that is precisely what this government wants to do. Look, we are in a deep hole, and the earlier they find ways to come out of that hole, the better. Unfortunately, they are digging them more. You can't tell us we are struggling when you are still demanding that we increase the budget of government machinery, when you are still demanding that we should approve so that 2,000 additional people would be engaged within the presidency. It's just ridiculous. So you need to live within your means. Unfortunately, this government is unprepared to do so, and that is where we are.
If you say unprepared, we'll come to it, and I'll introduce my second guest shortly. But let's just take a look at what the Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, had to say. Now, he says that the central bank's decision to hike the policy rate may not achieve the intended purpose. Take a look.
The balance of increased cost of borrowing the ballast of reduced liquidity in this time may just be a decision that will have little effect on the problem, but a huge unintended consequence. Inflation has already been affected by multiple things. It's been affected by post-COVID imported inflation because of the bottlenecks in production and inflation worldwide. So remember that some part of the inflation problem is not local. Another part of the inflation problem is food price inflation. Now the issue simply is this: will reduced liquidity fix this? I doubt. So in terms of inflation, I'm not sure this can fix inflation. And remember that the rate going up means the cost of local borrowing, even for the government, is going to go up. So I'm wondering what the Ministry of Finance is going to say about all this. Because side by side with the issue of our fiscal deficit and the straining fiscal policy is that each time rates go up, either the CD to dollar rate goes up or the local interest rate goes up, the effect is that our public debt also increases. So you've got to look at all these effects and ask yourself, on the balance, was this huge increase going to cure our problems? I doubt whether it's a silver bullet.
And that was Mr. Joe Jackson. Joining us in the studio, by the way, is Honorable Dixon Adumakun Kisi. He's the MP for Anya Soto constituency. Good morning.
You also serve on a particular board. Which board?
Good morning. Good morning.
You said the board is going.
No, accent.
Fortunately,
Which board?
I'm happy to be here. It's nice, and I was listening to him as I was coming. Let me use this opportunity to thank you for having this discussion, which is very dear to my heart. One wonderful thing, and I must say this to our Ghanaian populace, is that the president has recognized that times are truly tough. It takes a listening president to come to that awareness. It's one thing being aware, and it's another thing being able to make decisions. In another era, we had somebody who doctors were going on strike and couldn't care much about. So this is a good move. The retreat shows that the president and his economic team are aware that times really are tough. Now, one of the key things, worldwide, fuel prices are up. It's not a Ghanaian thing. Yeah. We're not isolated from this Russian-Ukraine issue. We're not isolated from continuous increase in the crude oil prices. And let me be very clear about this. Governments do not set fuel prices. It's a conglomerate in the oil industry, OPEC, that does that. Government can help. And as of last year, we are aware that the cushioning that government was providing has been touted as illegal. And government cannot subsidize as much as it was doing. Yeah. So let's be very clear about that. Now, there's nowhere in the world where fuel prices go up and your tomato prices don't go up. There's nowhere in the world where goods and services that are transported from the port to the inner lands will not go up because everything runs on fuel. And if you have a restaurant, your meal prices will go up because your inputs, home economics, basic 101 from my JSS tells me that when your salt, your onions, tomatoes prices are up, the meal price has to go up. And largely, even in the health industry, if the rubbing alcohol we use, the gauze, sutures, all these things are increased, then your medical bills will also go up. So fuel is a killer when it comes to inflation, when it comes to price increases. And these are basics, and you cannot necessarily put any brakes on it. Granted, I think one of the responses we're hearing from the retreat, and I'm yet to wait to hear from Honorable Ken Oforiatta, the finance minister, because I think we ought to give him that opportunity to come out and state categorically what the president wants to do. There's been an action by the banks, an increment of policy rates to 17%. At one point in time, they were a bit reluctant to increase it because of the impact on the entire community of banking or even borrowing as it stands.
So why have they done it this time around?
Well, they really don't have an option. You know, the world is moving in one direction, and you know, even the Brits. Let me just say that even the Brits, who are so conservative in their actions, have had to increase their rates over several decades of non-increment or very minimal increments. So we are in a time where I think that the NDC party, which is being a bit ingenious in the sense that they fail to almost recognize everything going on in the world and tag Ghana as one institution that is insulated from all these happenings in the world.
But they have said that they are aware of the crisis on the international market. However, the depreciation of the cedi is what is leading us to where we are today, and the fact that government refused to act on time. And yesterday, Honorable Kesola Soforsin did mention that even this policy rate increment, it should have been done earlier. It came a little too late, because if you look at the net international reserves in December, we lost about $700 million at that time. Then in January, we lost about $600 million. Why did we not put these measures in place? Why did we have to wait till this point? Well,
invariably, delay in this increment, like I said, was more of a conservative thinking, and it hasn't helped us. But then we have to recognize the fact that they've made a move from where they were, and government was very cautious about increment of the interest rates. Very cautious, because the promise to the Ghanaian people was to largely reduce our plight, largely reduce our pain. And you know, with this increment in terms of the interest rate, loan rates are going to be affected.
Exactly.
All the various things, construction industry largely in this country is going to be affected. So it was a matter of being very cautious in terms of the rippling effect of the interest rate change. And I need to say this, that the president is very, very much in touch with the Ghanaian people, very, very much concerned about our pain, very, very much concerned about the pain at the pump when we go and fill our petrol tanks. And I can see why he's so worried and called this retreat of his ministers. And let me say one key thing, which beats my mind. Listen, in times of trouble, you better hire people, pay them well to do a good job. A lot of the NDCs are screaming, reduction in governmental sizes and all these things. Please, even in the bankruptcy...
It's not just the NDC. Even the IEA put out a statement, and they also listed a number of measures that needed to be put in place. It's not an NDC thing.
Okay, so I'm a very progressive guy in my economic thinking.
Okay.
And I need to educate them that closing shop will not help us. We need to rather infuse, a spirit of high hope, infuse a spirit of being opening branches, more so than retracting, because retraction will be more adversely impactful for us. And I really think that, let me just say this, when your company is going down, don't go and get a cheap lawyer to handle your case. Just because he's a cheap lawyer, my dear, you sink and sink deep.
In this case, who would be the cheap lawyer?
No, the point I'm making is that, we have the human resource. We dare not cut them off and then go down. We shouldn't. We should get the brightest to help us out of this. And if the brightest will cost us some money, we should do it. And what I mean by that is, cutting down your ministers' numbers. In fact, if we do the math, in all fairness to Ghanaians, the ministers' kaukudi or lucre or monies they take, compared to the issues at hand, minuscule, very minute.
Okay.
And our detraction is always the wrong things many a times. And people talk about, V8, and he knows very well, some of us were using V8 before come into Parliament. So people don't come to Parliament because of V8. I mean, in all honesty, most of our internal battles, we spend more than V8 would cost you. So I beg Ghanaians to be cognizant of that. There are members of Parliament with huge businesses, far more than people can imagine before coming into politics.
But it's not the members of Parliament that we're being asked to cut down on; it's the ministers.
Okay, so let's go to Agric.
Deputy ministers.
Can we cut off Agric?
The ministries.
Can we cut off Interior Ministry? We can't cut these things off. We're here. Boko Haram and things are, doing harm to Burkina Faso and all these places. Is this a time to tell Defense Minister that he should go sit home? No. If we let Defense Minister go sit home and we run a risk of insurgency in this country, then we'll lose it all. Listen, war is expensive, but maintaining peace is worth your while. Maintaining peace is worth the money. And he and I know that when your mother is not well, you put all your dollars into her health to then worry about whether she'll get soap to bath or milk in her coffee. And what we're saying is that let's put in all we have to secure our good health as a nation, to secure our good economic health as a nation, and then we can, worry about the few other nuances.
Let me just read a number of the measures that the IEA put in their statement on what government can do, and I want to hear from you what you make of it. He says slash executive pay by 20%. Okay. You're saying that's minute?
Now, executive pay. There's always been a confusion about government or presidential machinery, where, for instance, the ambulance service, unfortunately, is being run through the government presidential machinery. Other flagship programs are being run through the government executive program. So when you look at the executive pay, and you go in total, in the sense that all these other flagship programs are being run through the president's office, then you come to terms with the fact that, hey, shall we cut down these core flagship programs, Planting for Food and Jobs, and all these other wonderful initiatives that have brought about jobs? Is that what we are asking for?
But the information minister has just told us that one of the things that came up from that meeting was the fact that there's going to be a review of the flagship programs. Absolutely.
We can review, make amendments. For instance, I mean, if we're providing, X amount of eggs per semester, maybe they might reduce the number of eggs students might eat. That is a review. Or or
maybe a cancellation?
As for cancellation, is a big no-no for me.
Okay.
I really think that, NAPCO has done well, in as much as, and let me say this here on your show. There was a time where nurses did not have any hope for allowances. Delay in payment of allowances is a better position because you have hope that in about 6 months, government will give me my money. But when it is scrapped entirely, then that one, there's no hope at all.
I don't know what even these nurses and the NAPCO trainees and NSS personnel would say about it, because they've been asking for their allowances or their monies to be paid them. And they're saying that even if it's 2 months, you don't expect us to go to work for 2 months and not get our pay and expect us to work efficiently. So if you say that it's better to have your allowances delayed than to have it scrapped, I'm not sure they're going to be too happy about it because there are people they work under who have taken their pay. There's no delay in their salaries. And yet we have the personnel, NAPCO trainees, who are not getting their salaries. In fact, there are Heal Ghana personnel under NAPCO that have not received their monies for about 7 months now. Yet we cannot say for a fact, but I'm sure that Dr. Anyas has received his salary every month up until now.
If I ask him when he received his last month's salary.
They are. I think hopefulness is the word here. When it is scrubbed entirely, then you're going to sit home with no pay at all. But hopefulness in the sense that, like I said, in one breath, the NDC was dedicated to no allowances at all. In one breath, teachers were not getting anything at all in terms of allowances. In another breath, there's a government which tells you that, listen, Majiatumu, I'll pay you.
When?
And we're talking about even like 3 months delay, which means that they've been receiving consistently.
Heal Ghana has not received over 9 months.
9 good months.
Yes.
This is almost like insurance under the NDC, where prescribers were having long delays of getting their reimbursements from the health insurance program. And let me state categorically that I think the NPP government should be, lauded, praised for helping the insurance, program stay and stand strong. And with the NPP, the insurance program has been very much strengthened, and many people go and get health care at a very decent rate where the government is supporting. And these are other initiatives that
You've moved, because we're talking about NAPCO and NSS, and I'm trying to understand how you're telling me to have hope when I'm hungry, I don't have a place to stay, I cannot pay my rent because I have not been paid for months. And you're telling me to have hope. What kind of hope?
Unemployment is when you have no job. Unemployment, no job. That one, even when you go to the cocoa seller, you tell them, Charlie, give me cocoa for like some 2 weeks. Salary, that one, they will consider you. But when you are jobless, without a job, when you go to the cocoa seller, you tell them, Charlie, me kwaba, 2 weeks, don't give you. So my key point here is that honestly, it is unfair, it's painful to be without your salary for X amount of months. But it's a far better condition than being disengaged from employment entirely. And that one, you can say this anywhere, and people will tell you that, listen, I would better... for instance, I can understudy at a very solid law firm for X amount of years, and the knowledge acquired for me is much more useful than being at home. And I'll beg all the youth, I keep saying this, I will travel outside for the experience and come back home with $1. I don't mind. Because the travel experience I gain from the US or the UKs or the Ukraines will add value to the decisions I make in this country. And I will not be bothered if I'm, either, let go from America or Canada and I come to this country with $1.
When you're hungry, I'm sure you would say something totally different. But let me bring Comrade in.
You don't think I'm hungry? I am hungry, but I put value on experience and knowledge.
Are you as hungry as someone who has not received his allowance or his salary for 3 months, 6 months, 7 months?
These are all people we worry about. These are all people, my constituents. I have people in that situation, and I have to hand out a little bit to support them.
But that's where the problem is. That's not your job.
And it's unfortunate.
They have work. They need to be paid.
I feel the pain, but like I will tell you, better at least know that you are employed, but usikada than to not be employed at all.
Comrade, do you agree?
Bella, I honestly listen to my friend. He's my very, very good friend. Interestingly, I serve in the same committee with him. One of the fine gentlemen in the NPP. You rarely find such fellows within the NPP. Unfortunately, he's on the path of destroying himself. And that is what he demonstrated this morning. You see, when you begin to ponder the pain of people, the suffering of people at a distance, this is the kinds of statements you make. And I would just urge my brother that at least show some empathy and sympathy to the young man who is a national service person.
He did. He said he feels for them.
No.
I said that.
In one breath, you can say you feel for them. In another breath, your statement clearly mocks them. You see, the young man who is a national service person who hasn't received his allowance for 3 months, and if he fails to come to the office, he may be queried. Have some sympathy for the young man who is a nursing trainee. And in any case, I will come to the nursing trainee and the teacher trainee in Jiffy. It was the most disastrous, egoistic policy intervention by this government. Maybe perhaps I need to take you just a minute. The history. This idea of giving teachers and nurses allowances started under Nkrumah. When we had independence and several people were not interested in such professions, there was some intervention to encourage people to join such professions, and the allowances were there. Maybe for the avoidance of doubts, when Buze became the president after the rigged elections in 1969, the first policy intervention of the Buze's administration was to scrap the free education. If you do not know, your Buze, his first intervention was to scrap it, because the Americans and those who masterminded the overthrow of Nkrumah were against it. And you see, it took Rawlings to bring it back as a military leader. At a time when people were not interested, at a time when we didn't have a lot of people chained out of our high and second sector institutions. Today, you have many people who are looking to gain admissions into the nursing training colleges and teacher training colleges. So it simply doesn't make sense when you continue with that and reducing the number of people who are admitted into nurses and teacher training college. And that was the reason why visionary Mahama said that there was the need for us to put in some allowances, loan facilities, that is like a student loan. Mind you, when the teacher training colleges and nursing training colleges are now tertiary institutions, you kick against it. You came in because it was egoistic. President Nanado made a promise. No, please, I listen to you. It was motivated by uncontrollable ego of the candidate and the president, and that we need to implement it. Mindful. I mean, regardless the expert advice, you implemented it and then you give the institutions the quota. So if we are admitting, let's say, Kolebu Nursing Training College, if they had the capacity to admit 1,000 students, because of this, you are now saying admit 200 students. You would have denied 800 students the opportunity to be admitted into Kolebu Nursing Training College. When you are implementing free SHS, the free SHS should tell you that more and more people would now have higher education. And therefore, you would have a lot of people who would want to be admitted. It simply doesn't make sense policy-wise. Every single aspect advice you against it. You rush into implementing it. You are not even paying them the allowances. And I think it's important sometimes. Let's show some empathy and sympathy with these people. Myself and you, we all did our national service. When we were doing national service, perhaps you came from a family that was so wealthy. Those of us who didn't, perhaps, yes. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Perhaps people who are struggling to survive, I have engaged national service persons. And Bella, I'll put this on this program, even though I won't mention the person's name. A young man met me in Parliament and said, Honorable, that was on Thursday. Honorable, I can't come to work again because we haven't been paid. Even Trotro, and I used to assist that young man. Just yesterday, I had to send him Momo. I don't know him from Adam. For him to fulfill his obligation of rendering service to this state, having completed higher education. You sit here and you think that it's normal. But you see, you can't
I'm not saying it's normal.
No, your statement concludes that you can't put your hand in a she hive, a beehive. Yeah. And then after you've been stung, and then you say that no. And the example he gave, that when your mother is sick, when you put a poison in the chalice of your mother to drink, and your mother falls sick, you can't come telling people that, oh, my mother is sick and therefore I need to do this. It is your recklessness and your irresponsibility that led to that. But you see, this argument, and this argument is been made time and again, that, oh, the reason why fuel prices are going high, and he reiterated same, is because of the war in Ukraine and Russia. They blame COVID, Ukraine. I pray that this war ends. They will find another conflict perhaps in Somalia and say that because of the conflict in Somalia, we have this. Bella,
but the truth is that Brent crude oil on the international market went up.
We are a net producer of crude. Bella, we are a net producer of crude. And if he's like, hold on. We are a net producer of crude. And I will read this. In the budget statement of 2019, these are not my words. Listen, in 2018, Ghana exported over $2.8 billion worth of crude oil in 2017. Now, and imported 1.7 billion of refined petrol products, resulting in a positive net balance of $1.1 billion. This was Ken Oforiatta.
What year was that?
That was in 2019 budget statement.
Before COVID?
Yeah, I'm saying 2019
Before
budget.
COVID?
It doesn't matter. Look, our percent, and you see, President Mahama inherited one oil well as a state. We bequeathed to you 3.
No,
hold on, please. I listen to you.
Hold on, Doc. We'll come to you so you can.
On this one.
I'll let you clarify. Okay. I'll let you clarify.
First and foremost, these were the words of the Minister of Finance.
Pre-COVID.
It doesn't matter whether pre-COVID. What quantity are we producing now?
We
are a net producer of crude. These are not statements coming from the NDC headquarters. These are statements coming from the president. The budget statement is read for and on behalf of the president. And these are statements. So you see, when crude prices surges or when crude prices go high globally, we benefit. In fact, when we peg crude prices at $65 per barrel, we were making a windfall of over 300 million. That was around at 65, dollars per barrel.
Dollars.
When the price surges beyond $100, we make $40 profit on each barrel of crude.
Yeah.
If you do not know, this is the amount of money we are making. So this excuse of the fact that because of the conflict in Ukraine, crude prices globally surged, and therefore Ghanaian, consumers must pay more, is just unethical. It's wickedness. Why is it that Nigeria, which is also a net producer of crude, has indeed cushioned their consumers? Why is it so? How come Togo, which is not producing oil anyway, fuel is cheaper in Togo than in Ghana when they buy it from Ghana? The reason is simple. The taxes.
But this morning, not to cut you, we are told that government has agreed to scrap some of these taxes on petroleum products.
As you see, this debate or this discussion we are having here are based on what we are experiencing now. I'm not interested in the futuristic things. We are talking about what we are experiencing now. And his statement was anchored on the fact that the prevailing economic circumstances. Let me give you the taxes, which constitute 40%. The taxes you have imposed on the people of this country, 40% of the price. And let me just read it. Energy debt recovery levy, 49 pesos. Road fund levy, 48 pesos. Energy fund levy, 1 pesos. Stabilization and recovery levy, 14 pesos. Sanitation and pollution levy is funny, 10 pesos. Energy sector recovery levy, they are even repeating, 20 pesos. Special petroleum tax, 46 pesos. Primary distribution margin, 11 pesos. Boss margin, 9 pesos. Fuel marketing margin, 5 pesos. Marketers margin, did you hear it? Marketers margin, 46%. Dealers or retailers operators margin, 30 pesos. It constitutes 40% of the price build-up. 40%. Now, if you tell me that, yes, the people of this country must understand, because we are going through challenges, and that the president is a listening government, a listening president, a listening president Puni, a listening president who is unwilling to listen to the cry of the people of this country.
Comrade.
I'm coming.
Okay.
The cry of the people of this country, that subsidize it, remove these taxes. And if you can't remove these taxes, the profit you make as a result of the surge in global crude, and as a net producer of crude now, we are benefiting. Use it under the circumstances and at these challenging times to cushion consumers. You are unwilling to do that. Now, the same president who is listening is not willing to take away e-levy when every...
Has e-levy been implemented?
Take it off.
Has it been implemented?
I said take it off.
Comrade, let me just come in. Let me just come in. So if you're talking about that $550 million windfall that we're going to make. Now, Andre Japamesa, who is the Deputy Minister for Energy, and this thing, we talked about it last week, he said that, yes, you're saying we should use that to cushion Ghanaians. It won't be that easy, because when it comes to the Public Financial Management Act, it details how you should spend some of these monies. And so you cannot just go ahead and use that to cushion Ghanaians. Again,
Bella,
if you're talking about taxes, we've been told that today it's likely that government is going to scrap the boss margin levy, sanitation and petroleum levy, price stabilization levy, and special petroleum tax and energy debt recovery levy.
We've been told until they do that. And Bella,
well, we're told that by end of today, this is coming from a meeting that government had with the Concerned Drivers Association. And the PR is the one who came out and mentioned that there's an agreement. ESLA
was instituted by visionary Mahama for a purpose. They have used ESLA for a loan. Get Fund was put in there for a purpose. They have mortgaged Get Fund for a loan. Can you trust these people? So when you tell me, when Ajapa tells me or tells anybody, oh, there are laws. Oh, my good friend, Mrs. When he tells me, oh no, we can't do this, we can't do ABCD. When government, why? But when could we have done what we have done to Get Fund? Could we have done what we have done to ESLA? Could we have done that? Because government was bent on doing that, they found a way to do it. So what we're simply saying is that the windfall, over 500 million that you are getting under the prevailing circumstances, courtesy your ramping up of the conflict in Ukraine and Russia.
We ramped it up.
Oh, but that is why you are not talking about, you are using it. You are using it as a justification. A justification that is born out of deceit.
Oh.
Now you are not telling the people of this country.
You are not being considerate.
I'm saying that you are not
the
telling the
victims
people.
of this war.
Please.
Hold on, Doc. I'll let you respond to all of these.
I'm not talking about the war in Ukraine. I'm talking about what you are immorally doing with that war. That is what I'm talking about. What you are unethically doing with that war in this country.
But Brent oil went up.
I'm saying it went
for the first time.
And we are benefiting. I am saying that as a net producer of crude, the windfall you have just quoted over $500 million. What responsible governments do is that, yes, under the circumstances, Ghanaians will go through a lot of challenges. Let's use this money. Let's cushion them.
But that's what he has said, that
No.
you cannot just do that. Besides,
you can do that.
He says that we run a deficit budget.
Bella,
and so
Bella,
that
Bella,
windfall is
Bella,
still not going to be enough.
Bella,
We're still going to have to borrow more money.
Are you buying this story? I have just made
But
reference.
he's the Deputy Minister of Energy. That's what he's saying.
I have just made the reference to you. Get fun. Could we have done what they have done with it? No. They found way to do that. That is why Parliament is there. Could we have done what we have done to ESLA? Was ESLA instituted specifically for them to use to take loan? No. Was Get Fund done for them to collateralize Get Fund for loan? No. They found a way to do that. So what we are simply saying,
that's financial.
please,
Hold on, Doc,
please,
please.
that when you are in extreme realities, you need extreme resolutions. They found the resolutions when they felt that were in extreme reality occasioned by their recklessness and their inept. They found way to do what they did. So this story of that we cannot do that should be thrown to the Marines.
Okay.
They can't do that. But Bella, let me make this.
The fishes or the Marines?
Oh, in fact, Marines. Bella, let me make this point. I mean, he's unnecessarily interjecting me.
Oh.
You are
Doc,
too fine
please.
to be doing that.
Please.
Bella,
Thank you.
The other point that he repeatedly makes is that, the government is doing A, B, C, D. You see, unemployed. When you are unemployed, is different. When you are jobless is worse than when you are unemployed. Are you serious? Are you really serious?
No, he's saying that if you don't have a job at all, it's worse than actually having a job where your salary even delays to an extent.
That is even more frustrating. There are workers in this country who are in fact, they live as if their lives are dependent on credit card, as we have in Europe and in Western Europe and in America. People are owing Yokogari sellers at their workplaces. Now, imagine someone who has a family and there is a delay in paying his salary for 3 months. That person enjoys electricity through prepaid. That person's electricity would be truncated. His water will be truncated. His kids will not be able to read in the night as your kids will do or my kids will do, because we have the opportunity to pay. Then his kids would have to struggle to get water to bath to go to school, when myself and you, our kids are already in school. And that's why I'm saying that don't look at people pain at a distance. But you see, when you tell me that we can't scrap Ministry of Defense, that is not what we are talking about. Now, if you tell me that security matters, I agree. Yet with those huge funds, we have the most disastrous security under the Fourth Republic, under a watch. And these are not my worst. These are the worst of civil society organizations and even the police. And I'll give you an example. The first quarter of 2018, the police themselves registered the highest armed robbery ever in the history of this country. The same time when you tell me, oh yes, the Ghanaians are struggling, they need to understand. The president is still paying thousands of dollars to use luxurious jets. The very time you're talking about, the president is asking Parliament, and I believe you read the budget statement, that give me 2,000 additional members to work within the government machinery. I want you to add 2 billion Ghana cedis to the budget of government machinery. It simply doesn't make sense. And I question it to tighten your seatbelts. And the very person who is telling you to tighten your seatbelts, he doesn't even have belt hooks, let alone talk about belts. So Bella, the challenge or the challenges we are facing today are not as a result of any global turmoil. They are as a result of the inept, the incompetence. Go to the Flagstaff House. There are young men at the Flagstaff House, and he knows, who sit behind just laptops. And what they do is that they go through Facebook, YouTube, attacking anybody who criticizes this government. They pay them 15,000 Ghana cedis a month.
And they sit at the Flagstaff House.
Ask him, he knows that.
This is unsubstantiated.
Ask him, he knows that. And they pay them 15,000 Ghana cedis a month. Look, in this country, Bella, in this country, we are being told, courtesy, if Yeshua is nigger, that the chief of staff gave her 50,000 Ghana cedis.
She came back and said
please.
she came back and said she only said that out of sarcasm.
Massa, it
just
can
to
be,
mock the
madam,
chief of
madam.
staff.
It took
She
her,
said
please,
it.
please, please. It took her days. Are we just? We are not just in this country. You have Kennedy at Japan. By the way, he hasn't come out. Kennedy at Japan told everybody that they paid for a chartered flight to fly Ajuasafu to Ghana. Kennedy at Japan.
For health reasons.
Hold on, what health reasons? Is she the only person who is sick or who may be sick? Was the Speaker of Parliament, flown in a flighted jet, in a chartered jet? And again, we are also being told that about 120,000 was also given to her by the same government. Stop insulting the people of this country. People are struggling.
Can I come in now?
Let me conclude. Let me conclude
on this. I'll just ask you a final question before we move on.
Unemployment rate in this country is at such an alarming rate. In fact, the census indicates it's almost 14%.
Yeah.
The government's own statement, budget statement, put youth unemployment at 12.6% and unemployment over 8%. Under President Mahama, we had unemployment that was 6.8%, and they said President Mahama was incompetent. Under President Mahama, the dollar to the cedi was how much? 3.4. They said President Mahama was incompetent. Relative. Please, today, we can't find my senior brother, Dr. Baumia. For him, he has become an apology of a vice president. He is no longer talking. Where is Central University? University that gave him the space to do his voodoo economics. Central University, where are you?
We're told that when he's ready, he will speak.
When he's ready, there can't be any time more suitable and ready for him to speak than now. But when the dollar has indeed broken the 8. The vice president told us that they had arrested the dollar, locked it, and gave the key to the IGP. And that is why
IGP.
It doesn't still matter. IGP is IGP. The challenge is that the dollar has broken jail. The dollar is a fugitive being pursued. And I will urge this IGP that he should stop the showmanship and go after the dollar which has broken jail.
Okay.
Go after it. And Dr. Baumia, we can't find him. You see, what we Northerners do, we speak out when people want us to speak out. Unfortunately,
if you have nothing to say,
where are you? He had something to say. He's the vice president. He's the chairman of the economic management team. He can't tell me he has nothing to say. He may have nothing to say.
The finance minister will speak this week, and you let us know
what
government's plans are in addressing the economic challenges. Where
was the finance minister when he was speaking in 2017? Where was the finance minister when he was failing speech in 2018?
Okay.
And for me, I want to apologize. In fact, I am apologizing on behalf of my senior brother. That is Dr. Baumia. He's my senior brother.
Why are you apologizing on his behalf?
That is not how we Northerners are. I am apologizing to the people of this country on behalf of my senior brother, Dr. Baumia, and to tell them that is not who we are as Northerners. That is not who we are as Muslims. We speak the truth.
Okay.
We speak out when people want us to speak out.
I've been wanting to ask you this.
Where is he?
No.
So do you agree, and just briefly, then I'll come to you, Doc. Do you agree with IEA saying that we should, reduce the number of ministries we have from 30 to 20 and also cut down on our ministers? Yes, I actually that earlier said no.
Alassane Ouattara just reduced his ministers from 46 to 43. Alassane Ouattara. He just did that.
Which of the ministries and ministers should we
there are a lot of ministries.
Take out?
There are a lot of ministries.
Like?
Look, you had, when we made...
Like local government?
Can I finish? There are ministries you can bring together. There are ministries that you can bring together. In fact, let's look at best practice or practices in other jurisdictions. Not anywhere, even in Africa. Go to Nigeria. They have combined Ministry of Petroleum and others. Take aviation. You have aviation, which is a separate ministry. You have transport, which is a mystery ministry. You have another roads. And the NDC, they were not like that. We combined aviation and transport. Okay. These people have decided that we need to create more jobs for family and friends, and therefore, let's split the ministry.
That's not the reason. I don't think the president came out and said that's the reason why we're creating
you see,
separating these ministries.
The challenge we have today is not about how many millions of dollars we inject into the system. At the Ministry of Trade, and I can speak confidently at this ministry, when the NDC won power in 2008, we were spending about $500 million, about $500 to $600 million importing rice into this country. Now you had a visionary President Mahama who came with some interventions. And by 2014, the local production of rice in this country
I'll let you
Local
speak.
production
I'll let you
of rice
speak.
in this country surged, in fact, increased by 60%. And our importation of rice into Ghana reduced by 40%. And that is what explained that within 8 years, when the NDC was leaving office, we were spending less than $500 million importing rice into this country. Today, this government is spending about $1.5 billion.
But we've been told that by next year we'll stop importing
we were told,
or we'll reduce it drastically.
we were told these stories last year. We were spending about $1.5 billion. You know the reason? There was a ban in the importation of rice into this country. And I remember when I was made the deputy minister, they petitioned. I had meetings with these small rice importers and big rice importers.
Please land on
what
this
I
for
did
me.
was that, Bella, it's critical. I tasked a team. In fact, the team was led by Kofi Kapito. And I did that deliberately. A known MPP activist, including journalists from Peace FM and other radio stations. They did their own investigation. And the report they submitted to me as a deputy minister, which I forwarded to my minister, was that that ban needed to continue. When you came, because those people finance your elections, you've lifted that ban, and that is where we are. President Mahama, as visionary leader, realized that we're spending so much money importing pharmaceutical products into this country when our pharmaceutical companies had the capacity to produce pharmaceutical products that met the WHO standard. He gave direct financial assistance to selected pharmaceutical companies, and we reduced the amount of money we're spending. You are spending over 1.5 billion importing rice into this country, and you want your CD to have a value. Last point, frontier health.
A Greek minister says, no, let's not move on to frontiers. A Greek minister says that we're going to,
no,
because he has to speak. He's been speaking for a while. I want him to speak as well. But I just wanted to land with the fact that a Greek minister says that by 2023, we will stop the importation of rice to a large extent. So let's see how that goes. Well, that's what he says. He's the head of the ministry. But let me bring Doc in so he responds to a number of the points that you have raised. And also the fact that the information minister says we're going to review some of all the flagship programs, including free SHS. IEA had mentioned that it's time for us to introduce a government parent cost-sharing arrangements for free SHS and abolish the purchase of past exam questions for students and also scrap NAPCO. What do you say to that on the back of what the information minister has also said?
Case in point, and I have to reiterate this, my heart goes out to all the young ones struggling to find jobs. My heart goes out to all the young ones who are hit by delayed emoluments or reimbursement from government. I've been on strikes before as a medical doctor when at the time Haruna Idrisu was the head of Labor Relations. What ministry is that? Minister of Labor and what? He was employment. Yeah. He was the minister then. In fact, before I came to Parliament, I've actually never told him that we had an issue then.
And you're using MPP to stage demonstrations.
No, I mean that was purely delayed in payments over a year, and we had to duke it out a little bit. And the key point here is that it's funny that during the NDC time, I hadn't been paid for over a year. And he's here talking as if during the NDC time, there were no delays in salary payments.
Did you have other means of surviving at least?
Well, I mean, the key thing is that during the NDC time, some people had been without salary for a year. So he shouldn't sit here and talk as if it's a new thing and that under the NDC era.
People?
I was a medical doctor.
For a year, you were not paid.
And a year I was not paid. That's why we went on strike. No, you can go and check the facts.
Okay.
I
have pictures.
Freshly came out of.
Please allow him to speak, because when he was interjecting, you were not too happy with that.
There's a difference between.
Please allow him.
There's a difference between doctors who are doing their housemanship, who have just finished their course, and they have been engaged by the state.
But you don't know which one.
That's why I want him to tell the.
Let him speak.
The point in case.
Because that
let me say that if it's NAPCO, for instance. NAPCO people have not been paid for 3 months or so, or 6 months.
There's some who are owed about 9 months.
9 months.
Ghana.
Yes. So my point here is that whether I'm a beans seller for government or I'm a doctor for government and I haven't been paid for 9 months, that is the story I'm saying here. That under their leadership, the same thing happened. But he's here preaching.
So if the same thing happened,
I experienced it.
Dr. Kisi, if the same thing happened,
pictures of
does it
joy
then make it okay that is also happening under the MPP?
My point is that he shouldn't come here and cry wolf when really under their leadership similar things occurred. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Now,
Comrade, please.
Listen, like I told you, I was very specific about who the minister was. Very specific.
matter.
And the fact that I went to his office with a team of us
Okay.
and we sat down to deliberate on this
And you're
issue.
not paid for a year.
Comrade, please.
So the beautiful thing
knows
here
it's not being true.
is
He
that
knows
I would beg the Ghanaian people, listen, the reality is that the world is on its knees. That is the reality. The big, G7s that we know are even on their knees. And I'm not saying that because they're on their knees, Ghana has to be on our knees. But we are so interconnected. You know, when your cousin can't work in the UK and remit to you as a family, you're in trouble. And a lot of the monies we get in this country for construction work are largely cousins, relatives who are trying to build a home here. And that is how our construction industry flows. But unfortunately, a lot of them are not really working now because of the COVID scenario and the adverse impact of COVID. Now, the key thing here, listen,
He's in trouble.
he says empathy. Empathy. Please.
And sympathy both.
Some folks cut off all your lifeline. They cut it off. Somebody came and proposed that we'll give you a lifeline.
Which lifeline?
Howbeit, there might be some delays. And that's why I keep saying that, listen, I'd rather be gainfully employed and maybe have a delayed salary than not have any employment.
But that's
at
the
all.
thing. He didn't tell us
And-
that there will be delays, however. He said that I'm here to fix the problem. Yet Tisika so comedians. So we were made to believe that
let me
we were living in
come up-
abundance.
Let me come
and
up
it
with
was
some
bad
things.
management and leadership that landed us where we were
Bella,
under the NDC.
And you have a beautiful name, let me say
Thank
that.
you.
Don't patronize her.
The key thing here,
Answer her questions.
the key thing here, we had nurses who were not gainfully employed for so long, a backlog of several years,
That's not
which
true.
he knows.
That is not true.
And because
Then
they
he's saying
they
give
hit
42,000
under
nurses
IMF
by
and
your
said that
own government
Comrade,
rate.
because
It's
of
not
please
true.
allow
IMF,
him.
they
not
couldn't
even
bring
true.
these nurses to
It's not
employment.
true.
Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has employed consistently every year. And as we sit here, I think 2019 nurses are working. That was not the scenario under your
That is
leadership.
not true.
And, this is factual.
Your own government.
is factual.
Go to the
You
website of the
understand?
Ministry of
you
Health.
let him land.
So
Let him land.
my point here is that the MPP government has consistently been enrolling nurses in jobs,
Just
which
like
was
they
not
did.
your case.
It's not true.
And more importantly, what even makes me so happy is that under our leadership, medical doctors can further their education and have support. And this is powerful.
It was
Medical
the same thing.
doctors are leaving the country. They're seeking greener pastures outside the country because they're
some
not
leave
being paid well.
consistently.
But the numbers
Some
are
leave
huge under
consistently.
watch.
No, if you are having more doctors trained, you'd have an increment
Well, have you increased the
per
number
the
of
percentages.
doctors?
Comrade,
Now,
please allow
the
him.
beautiful thing is we
Please.
have US. Yeah, there are more medical schools now
Because we build a lot
Thanks
of
to-
hospitals. You
No,
haven't
there-
built
there are
a
also-
single one.
Comrade,
There are
please.
also private.
Allow him to make his
medical
point,
schools.
please.
So the key thing, I like how he's coming on board. It's cool. I mean, we can reverse.
Oh, so you're okay with him
We can
interjecting?
reverse the same thing. I mean,
Okay.
I can do better than him.
But he did
You know.
not.
So my key thing here is let me end on this. That listen, it is smart governance to make adjustments as things change on your way forward. We cannot be tinti and stay at the same place where we were 10 years ago. Things have changed.
Yeah.
And that is why I would commend the presidency for being smart about their governance and admitting that, listen, we need to adjust from where we were. And these adjustments, I welcome finance minister tomorrow or whenever to come and tell us. He's having premature thoughts, and I think it's bad for governance.
Okay.
A decision has been made. Let's be patient. Let's listen to the finance minister. And I even wanted to add that, listen, governance is a continuum. You can't be stuck in one box when people are struggling, people are suffering. And that is purely what Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo is doing now, that he's thinking outside the box and he's admitting that he needs to make some, clearly managerial adjustments to things that we had put on
Including
board.
reviewing the flagship programs.
Well,
Free SHS
Bella,
has come up for
Bella,
discussion.
and
Comrade,
that is-
please allow him to speak.
That
I'll
is
come back to you.
beautiful.
How
To
is
have a
that beautiful?
government-
You said
to have
review,
a
right?
government who is-
Let me just read something. So this was back in
Go on.
2019, 4th December.
Yeah.
So President Nana Akufo-Addo said that a statement that former President John Dramani Mahama had made, that when he comes back into power, they will review the free SHS, meant that he was going to cancel it.
Yeah.
That is what the president said. In fact, this is what former President Mahama said. He said that, where is it? Okay, within the first 90 days after I take office as the president of Ghana, I will call for the arrangements of a very broad stakeholder and consultative meeting on the way forward for a better free SHS and all issues that have been raised which are feasible and doable, and we will review it. But President Akufo-Addo said that if he said review, what he actually meant was cancel. Now you are saying that you're going to review your flagships. Does it also mean cancel?
No and no. No and no. And let me be very clear with Ghanaian people. Listen, I'm very happy that I have a president who has admitted that, listen, we wished to have done this fully, but times have changed and we need to adjust. And that's all he said. And let's wait to hear from the finance minister, in terms of the, adjustments that will be made. And once we know that, we can come here. I'm ready to come back here on when today's what, Wednesday?
Today's Tuesday.
Next week, Tuesday, we'll be back here. And we can then deliberate on whatever.
But I quote what the president said, that the word
we're
review
not going to
means cancel.
So
this is a quote from the president.
No, there's
the
Mahama,
word review
Mahama
means
words.
cancel.
Mahama review means cancel.
But President Akufo-Addo review means what?
Akufo-Addo's review word means adjustments.
Adjustments. Is this an admission that free SHS maybe did not serve its purpose as it was intended?
It has served its purpose. And it's 5 years now, wallahi, 5 years, beautiful. Many people who may not have entered school have entered. And human capital, the painful thing, you cannot quantify the benefit of education today. When maybe he's frail and old, and one of the doctors from FSHS come to attend to him, then he would really appreciate.
Why didn't you say one of the teachers?
He would really appreciate.
Why didn't you say one of the
beauty
teachers?
of and maybe his next construction work, the architect might be from FSHS.
Did we not spend too much? 7.62 billion Ghana cedis on free SHS for 5 years. This was the finance minister saying this in 2021.
Ignorance
Meanwhile,
is bliss,
he had said earlier,
but education is expensive.
He had said earlier that
Ignorance
maybe
is also super
we
expensive.
should target, people who can pay for their wards to be in secondary school instead of this wholesale agenda of free SHS.
He said that on TV3. Actually, I think I watched him say that. It's a smart governmental move, and if that's what we're moving towards,
why didn't we do it before?
Well, I mean, finance minister was very clear. Let me say this: he was very clear that he had wished that we target, or as it is, assess students who cannot afford and pay for them. That was what finance minister said. And like on any committee or any board, you may have what you think, but the board decides, and you go with what the board decides. And finance minister categorically said that he had wished here on your screen that we would have, dealt with people who cannot afford instead of all the wholesale program.
Because then we wouldn't have spent all that money on free SHS and would have had enough money for other policies as well.
I really want to also say that, listen, money not used towards education by all these people who could have afforded can still be part of the cushioning, in terms of governance. So I see it as a way that government also cushioned people's pockets to be able to do other things with their money. And when government cushions and allows you to use your money how you want to use, is one of the best Ghanaian or government policies in the world.
We have just about a minute to go. Yeah, let him conclude. I'll give you a minute.
I think all Ghanaians should be patient. Finance minister will come and talk within, and I hope he adds a biblical quote again, which he always does.
He's European.
He's going to talk in about 24 hours or so.
Okay.
Let's be patient. All these jobs, not necessary.
Okay. He's speaking tomorrow for sure.
So let's be patient. Once he comes out with the needed
I have 30 seconds.
In a serious country and under a serious government, Oforiatta would be sacked.
Oh my God, that's a whole different
But
topic.
he can't be sacked because
That's
there
a
is
whole different
Oforiatta
topic.
attached to his name. Which is Bella. President Mohammed.
It's his name that's keeping him.
Yes, of course. President Mohammed, you go and swear affidavit. The reason why they put you on that board is because you don't have Oforiatta attached to you. Go and swear an affidavit. And I can tell you, they'll put you on MPA. You see, Bella, President Mohammed's review.
Which board is this?
Oh, ask him.
Let's make the headline
Bella,
news. Mutala says
go and swear
Dr. Kisi should change his name to
I'm also
Oforiatta.
thinking of even swearing an affidavit.
I
You
love
want
my
to change your name?
Yeah, no.
You are Comrade
my name.
Mutala what?
Oforiatta. You know, Bella. President Mohammed's review, even when he explained having made that statement, he explained, and subsequently, communicators explained, and President Mahama himself explained what he meant by the review. They said, oh, cancellation.
The grassroots were
King
saying
Nanado's review. If you,
you're giving him a new name now, a new title.
He rules this country like a king. I am telling you, he doesn't rule this country like a Democrat. And that is why I am saying that the problems we have today are not problems that are occasioned by any global challenge. How come?
Really?
Point made.
You want to know our cousins?
Really?
Our cousins are Togolese.
All right.
Burkinabes.
Thank you so much. Comrade, thank you so much for speaking to us. And well, let's wait and see what the finance minister has to say tomorrow. Do you know exactly what time he's speaking, by the way?
That I don't.
You don't know, but we're expecting him to speak tomorrow. Per Dr. Adumaku Kisi, he's the MP for Anya Sotom, and also Comrade Mutala Mohammed is the MP for Tamale Central. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
I'll pay for it.
It's now Bella Moriata.
We'll be back with more. I should change my name to Bella Moriata. Will I get any?
Oh, you get the ball.
We'll be back with more. Keep watching.